Welcome to this explainer. I've been genuinely obsessed with what we're unpacking today, mostly because it touches quite literally every single one of us. Have you noticed it lately? There is this profound, just undeniable feeling going around the globe right now that something deep beneath the surface of our reality is shifting. It's this sense that the traditional systems and the old models of success we've relied on for generations, they're suddenly starting to shake. We're seeing it everywhere, right? The global burnout epidemic, the great resignation, or just that lingering collective post-pandemic feeling of, wait, is this really it? Well, we're going to explore exactly why this is happening. We're breaking down some incredibly fascinating insights into what we might call the alchemy of human consciousness. So let's get right into it.
Across the world, people are waking up to a pretty stark realization. The old playbook is rapidly losing its power. For decades, we were all handed this very specific, incredibly rigid script for life. Go to a good school, climb the corporate ladder, buy the big house, and boom, happiness will eventually be delivered straight to your doorstep. But right now, we are seeing those traditional models totally fail to satisfy. The endless pursuit of material success is just leaving people feeling hollow. Constant consumption is completely failing to fill that inner void. And because those external systems are shaking so violently, it's practically forcing us to fundamentally turn inward.
And because of that sudden inward turn, questions that used to seem super distant or, maybe reserved for philosophers are returning with absolute force. Suddenly, you're just sitting in traffic or staring at your ceiling at 2 in the morning, and it hits you. Who am I? Really? Beneath the job title, beneath the curated social media profile, who am I?
And then, right on the heels of that, comes an even heavier realization. Why am I here?
And finally, what is humanity becoming? Now, the genuinely fascinating thing about this intense barrage of questions is that if you are feeling this, you are absolutely not alone. This is not just an individual crisis. When millions of people around the globe simultaneously start to sense that the old script doesn't work anymore, and when the identities people once clung to are suddenly being questioned en masse, we're looking at a collective shift in the human experience. There are these rare moments in history when it's not just world events that change, but human beings themselves. And honestly, we might be living through one of those exact moments right now.
All right, Section 1, the collective unconscious. To really understand the sheer magnitude of this shift, we need a solid framework to diagnose what's actually happening. And to do that, we're going to look at the brilliant work of the renowned Swiss psychologist Carl Jung. Decades ago, Jung actually gave us the exact vocabulary we need for this very moment.
Jung proposed this remarkable idea. He theorized that way beneath our individual isolated minds, there exists this profound, deeper layer of shared symbols, archetypes, and psychological patterns that invisibly connect all of us. We are all essentially plugged into this underlying network. Just think about how certain myths, like the classic hero's journey, popped up completely independently across totally disconnected ancient cultures all over the globe. That is the collective unconscious in action. And Jung believed that when these deep, shared forces start to shift, it doesn't just change a few individuals, entire civilizations change. What we are witnessing today is a seismic shift in this collective unconscious.
To understand why this shift feels so incredibly disruptive, we have to look at what's currently running in the background of our minds. For generations, we've been raised inside these rigid systems of conditioning. Think of them like invisible background apps running in your brain. We were taught exactly what success should look like. We were handed instructions on what we should fear, what we should desire, what we should believe, and ultimately, how to even define ourselves. And here's the real kicker. Most people never question these invisible programs. We just inherit them. We run the software without ever once looking at the code. Which totally explains why so many of us are walking around with metaphorical malware. But right now, humanity is finally starting to question that programming.
Moving on to Section 2, the process of individuation. We need to shift our focus from the problem of this shaking foundation to the actual antidote. And once again, Carl Jung provides us with a breathtaking perspective on what the ultimate purpose of life really is.
Jung called this ultimate purpose individuation. It is not about merely racking up achievements or endlessly chasing social status. Individuation is the profound journey of becoming who you truly are, completely beyond the masks imposed by society. So, what does that actually look like in our modern world? Well, it's the senior executive who abruptly leaves a massive, high-paying corporate job to teach art because they suddenly realize their decades of ambition were inherited entirely from their parents and not from their own soul. The crucial takeaway here is this: what if the massive global transformations and disruptions we're seeing today are actually part of that individuation process?
From a Jungian perspective, this shaking of systems is not a crisis at all. It is a profound, necessary awakening. An awakening doesn't mean having all the answers. It just means finding the courage to finally ask the deeper questions.
When we look at the old world we're slowly leaving behind, we see a system that fundamentally rewarded conformity. It constantly encouraged people to seek power outside of themselves, right? Through wealth, status, external validation. But the emerging world, it operates on a completely different frequency. It rewards authenticity. This new journey starts by discovering the power hidden within, rather than frantically chasing it on the outside. We are moving from a world of rigid, inherited conditioning to a world that demands expansive, unwavering authenticity.
Now, let me clear something up real quick, because this is a huge misconception. Embarking on this journey of authenticity and inner power does not mean you have to sell all your worldly possessions and go move into a yurt in the woods to become enlightened. Not at all. True spirituality is not some escape from reality. It's the exact opposite. It's the ability to see reality more clearly. It means fully participating in modern life and using technology consciously, rather than being unconsciously controlled by it. True awareness isn't about adopting some brand new, trendy belief system. It's simply recognizing the invisible patterns, the assumptions, and the fears that have been secretly directing your life this whole time.
Which brings us right to Section 3, Confronting the Shadow. This is a critical phase of the awakening, and a concept that's absolutely central to actually doing this inner work properly.
Jung talked a lot about something he called the shadow. The shadow represents all those hidden aspects of ourselves that we actively reject, suppress, or simply refuse to even look at. It's the messy stuff, the fears, the insecurities, the traits we've been conditioned to believe make us somehow unacceptable. For instance, if you were taught as a kid that expressing anger is somehow a bad thing, you suppress that totally natural emotion straight into your shadow. But as an adult, that anger doesn't just magically vanish, right? It sneaks out sideways as chronic passive aggressiveness or this deep-seated anxiety. Jung firmly believed that true monumental growth only begins when we finally turn around and confront the shadow head-on, rather than constantly running away from it. The future genuinely belongs to those who are willing to face themselves honestly.
And honestly, this confrontation with the shadow explains a massive trend we are seeing right now. It's exactly why millions of people globally are suddenly exploring meditation, diving into depth psychology, embracing self-discovery, and returning to spiritual traditions in record numbers. Beneath all the chaotic noise of the modern world, a much deeper search is unfolding. It's a search for actual meaning, a search for truth. People aren't just looking for the next slick life hack or morning routine anymore. They are looking for foundational truth. People are realizing that the ultimate prize isn't knowing the most facts or owning the most things. The true prize belongs to the people who understand themselves the most.
All of this points us straight to Section 4, the next great revolution. Because when we look at the shaking systems, the crumbling of all these invisible programs, and this massive global drive toward individuation, it really points to one inevitable conclusion about our future.
The greatest revolution of the coming years is actually not going to be what you think. It might not be technological, because, let's face it, no amount of artificial intelligence can solve a crisis of human meaning. It might not be political, despite the endless, noisy headlines we see every day. It might not even be economic. The true revolution? It's not going to happen in the external systems of the world at all.
The greatest revolution is going to occur within human consciousness itself. We are quite literally making an evolutionary leap collectively. We're transitioning from unconscious living, where we just blindly follow those inherited programs, to conscious living, where we finally see reality clearly. We are moving from a state driven entirely by fear and conformity, to one grounded in deep understanding and self-knowledge. And maybe most importantly, we are shifting away from a paradigm of external control, where society dictates our worth, into a profound state of inner freedom.
So where does that leave you watching this right now? The reality is this shift is already happening. The question is no longer whether the world is changing. The systems are shaking, the collective unconscious is actively moving. The only question that actually matters now is whether you are changing with it. Are you participating in this evolution or are you resisting it?
So here's what I want to leave you with today. Look at the crossroads we're standing at. Will you remain trapped inside the inherited programming, playing out a script that honestly no longer serves you? Or will you summon the courage to confront your shadow, step out of the illusion of external power, and begin the incredible journey toward your true, authentic self? Because you know what? The next chapter of humanity has probably already begun, and maybe it begins entirely within you. Thank
Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking those deep questions, and I'll catch you next time.